Scotland, and that cloud will be just thick enough in places to produce the odd spot of rain, but most of us remaining dry. Temperatures on Sunday similar to what we will be seeing today, highs potentially up to 10 or 11 degrees where we see the sunniest skies. Into Monday, a fair bit of cloud around as we start the day, but that will begin to break up a little bit as we move through into the afternoon. Best of the sunshine on Monday across parts of northern Scotland, maybe later on across East Anglia. And then it's really from Tuesday into Wednesday where we see increasing amounts of sunshine, and by Wednesday some of us seeing temperatures in the mid-teens.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We're giving you the chance to splash out this season with an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash. Jet off on your dream holiday, treat yourself to something special, or just save it for a rainy day. You'll also receive 2 brand new designer watches and a Mulberry handbag, so you can really look the part this spring. For another chance to win the lot, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It is 9 p.m. I'm Ben Leo. Tonight, President Donald Trump announces decisive and powerful military action against the Houthi rebels in Yemen and warns Iran to immediately stop supporting them or else. So, what about us here in the UK? Well, I can reveal tonight that, unlike last year, the UK isn't getting involved tonight, while MID sources suggest we weren't even given a heads up about it. So where does that leave the so-called special relationship? Also tonight, Britain's first religious education leader, Sir Hamid Patel. Well, he once led a school who invited a Jew-hating Saudi cleric to speak to children. Tonight, he's the new acting chairman of Ofsted. And
just as we were pulling away, they said, stop, you have 2 clandestines under your bike, on your bike rack, under the bike cover.
Dear oh dear, a British family drove to France for a nice long weekend, and on their return, Border Force discovered 2 migrants clinging to their bike rack. So is it fair they were fined £3,000 by the Home Office? Also tonight.
Honestly, I thought it was terrible.
What's so bad about it?
I think everything.
You'll be left absolutely appalled at what's happened to the celebrity chef who last week told me he turned down working with Meghan Markle on her new Netflix show. And who's been a naughty little pooch?
Kai is a big humper.
Joining me on the panel tonight is journalist and communications advisor Linda Jubilee, the academic and anarchist Lisa McKenzie, and the former Labour special advisor Paul Richards. Good evening to you. Big show coming up, including the first of tomorrow's newspaper front pages, hot off the press. First, though, let's get your news headlines with Sophia Wensler.
Good evening. Your headlines from the GB newsroom. Sir Keir Starmer has announced military planning for a Ukrainian peace deal is now moving to an operational phase with a meeting in the UK next week. The Prime Minister hosted a virtual Coalition of the Willing summit this morning, where he told world leaders to keep up the pressure on Vladimir Putin for an unconditional ceasefire. Representatives from 26 countries were in attendance, including Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky and French President Emmanuel Macron. Sir Keir urged world leaders to be prepared to defend a potential deal.
President Zelensky has shown once again, and beyond any doubt, that Ukraine is the party of peace. Volodymyr has committed to a 30-day unconditional ceasefire, but Putin is trying to delay, saying there must be a painstaking study before a ceasefire can take place. Well, the world needs action, not a study, not empty words and conditions. So my message is very clear. Sooner or later, Putin will have to come to the table. So this is the moment. Let the guns fall silent. Let the barbaric attacks on Ukraine once and for all.
In other news, authorities in the US have confirmed that at least 11 people have died in Missouri after tornadoes tore through central and southern states. The state's emergency management service has reported widespread damage across multiple regions, but around 138 million people are still at risk of severe weather in central and southern US states. Tornado warnings are still in place in parts of Illinois, Missouri, Arkansas, Mississippi, Indiana and Kentucky. Now, the Russian captain of a container ship which crashed into a US oil tanker in the North Sea has been remanded in custody. Earlier today, Vladimir Motin appeared at Hull Magistrates Court, charged with gross negligence manslaughter in relation to the collision between the two vessels earlier this week. Filipino national Mark Angelo Pernia has been named as the missing crew member, who is now presumed dead. And the Prince and Princess of Wales went head-to-head as they cheered on opposing sides at the Wales versus England Six Nations match this afternoon. It comes after they were spotted greeting injured players ahead of the game at Principality Stadium today. Kate, who is patron of the Rugby Football Union, and Prince William, who has been patron of the Welsh Rugby Union since 2016, were both in attendance at the highly anticipated rugby game where England beat Wales 68-14. Those are the latest GB News headlines. More in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good evening. Thank you for your company. If you ever wondered about the state of the UK-US special relationship, well, tonight's breaking developments might shed some light on things, because just a few hours ago, President Donald Trump announced the US had launched an all-out military attack on the Houthi rebels in Yemen. The Houthis, of course, have targeted more than 100 merchant vessels in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, a key trade corridor in the south of the Med. However, with missiles and drone strikes raining down since the Israel-Hamas war since October 2023, there has been a critical blockade of shipping. So what about the United Kingdom in tonight's developments? America's closest ally and partner in the so-called special relationship. Have we joined in the assault? Are we proving wingman like we did in joint UK-US airstrikes last year? Well, sources say that no, the UK isn't getting involved. This is a solo US effort. More concerningly, though, I understand Sir Keir Starmer's government wasn't even given a heads up tonight about the American operation. So what does that say about our special relationship with the US? What does that say about Donald Trump's perception of Great Britain and indeed of our Labour government? Are we no longer a trusted ally? Because between the 11th of January to the 30th of May last year, the US and the UK conducted 5 joint naval airstrikes against the Houthis in response to their attacks on shipping. But from January this year, when Donald Trump was inaugurated, the US, interestingly, started going it alone when they carried out their own separate airstrikes. We've not been involved since. President Trump said in his statement tonight, "Our brave warfighters are right now carrying out aerial attacks on the terrorist bases, leaders and missile defences to protect American shipping, air and naval assets and to restore navigational freedom. No terrorist force will stop American commercial and naval vessels from freely sailing the waterways of the world." And he added, to Iran, "Support for the Houthi terrorists must end immediately. Do not threaten the American people, their president, who has received one of the largest mandates in presidential history. If you do, beware, because America will hold you fully accountable and we won't be nice about it." Well, let's get the thoughts now of defence analyst and broadcaster Stuart Crawford on this. Stuart, good evening. Thank you for joining me. What does this say about the fact the US are going alone on this tonight? Bearing in mind our relationship in the past, we've joined them on many strikes previously, 5 in the last year. And as I understand tonight, Stuart, we weren't even given a heads up about the operation.
Yes, good evening, Ben. I don't think that I would read too much into the fact that we're not involved in this current phase of the operation. We don't know how long this operation might go on. It might be just the one strike today, or it could go on for a week. And that is something that obviously the Americans will be keeping close to their chests. But I think that there's no doubt that the relationship has changed with Donald Trump in the White House. But I still think that we are a trusted ally of the USA. Whether the USA is still a trusted ally of Britain, of course, is another thing altogether. But in the context of what's going on with the attacks on the Houthis, I don't think we need to be too concerned at the moment.
OK, there was some reports in the Times yesterday that military planners, whoever they are, they fear that HMS Prince of Wales could be attacked by Houthi rebels when it's due to pass through, I think, the Gulf of Aden and the Red Sea later this year. Have you heard something similar?
Yes, I think obviously there will be a concern that if the Houthi rebels are continuing their campaign against shipping in the Red Sea through the Gulf of Aden and into the Indian Ocean, a route that HMS Prince of Wales is going to take, and several other Royal Navy ships, destroyers and frigates, and possibly a submarine, who knows, then there will be concerns. That won't happen until late June, early July, I don't think. And with a bit of luck, the Houthis will have been put back in their boxes by then. But no, it is worrying. I think the interesting thing is that the Houthis are proxies for Iran, and the other two proxy groups, Hezbollah and Hamas, have been effectively dismantled by the Israelis with US help. And now it's the Houthis' turn. And I always thought this was going to happen. And I've always said that at some point the USA is going to have to confront Iran directly, because it is behind all the conflict in the Middle East, and that has to be stopped.
Yeah, I think it was only last week, literally last week, off the back of Donald Trump's executive order in January, that they re-prescribed the Houthis as a terrorist organisation. So, Stuart, no concern from you that, A, we're not involved, bearing in mind that we have been going with them before, and B, I may be wrong on this, but I understand on good sources that we weren't even given a heads up about it, a courteous heads up.
Well, perhaps Trump is concerned that the secret to all these things, of course, is operational security, and he may have expressed, or his military leaders may have expressed some concern that if they broadcast it to allies, it might leak out. I think that's highly unlikely in the case of the UK. So I wouldn't read too much into it. And the fact that we weren't involved today doesn't mean we won't be involved in the future.
Yeah, OK, great stuff. Thank you, Stuart Crawford. Appreciate that. Let's get some more reaction to this now from foreign policy analyst and columnist Lee Cohen. Lee, good evening. Could it be a case of that Donald Trump just doesn't trust Keir Starmer or the British anymore?
No, I don't think that's it at all, Ben. President Trump unleashed American might on the Houthis, and it's about time. While Iran's proxies choke the life out of global trade and defy the free world, Trump's not just talking tough, he's hitting hard. And Keir Starmer said, you played a clip just a minute ago about a situation elsewhere in the world. Keir Starmer said it's time for action. Donald Trump felt it was time for action. And the Houthis hit American ships today. Trump had to act fast. This wasn't about sidelining Britain. It was about speed and decisiveness. Britain's Navy has been shoulder to shoulder with us in these waters, and Trump knows that.
Do you not think it's funny, though? I mean, maybe it's a coincidence, you tell me, but from the day he was inaugurated, we've not held one coast strike with the United States, whereas the most recent one was in December, I think. We did a joint airstrike on a base in Yemen on the Houthis. So if you're just looking at the data, Trump gets inaugurated, he wins office, and suddenly we stop working with them in the Red Sea.
Well, I think we need to look elsewhere if we're going to evaluate the special relationship. And Trump has been hand in glove speaking to Keir Starmer, with whom he, certainly has ideological differences, but they've had a very cordial relationship. And like your guest who preceded me said, I wouldn't be too concerned about this because it's just the first day of retaliation here, and we don't know if there will be further collaboration between the US and the UK on.
I guess I'm just thinking about the Chagos Islands as well. The fact that we heard whispers that the Trump administration did not want us to do a deal about the Chagos Islands. I'll speak to my panel about that next. But, who knows? Does the US, does Donald Trump now look at Britain and the Labour government as a little bit of a liability? Who knows?
Well, I don't think that Donald Trump at all looks at the special relationship as a liability. He champions the special relationship. He championed the spirit of Brexit because he values sovereignty. And above all, he values Britain as a global partner. And he knows that it needs to be untethered from unelected bureaucrats in Brussels in order to be the best partner it can. So Donald Trump absolutely puts the special relationship on a priority. So I don't think we can read into this at all and say the special relationship is at odds.
All right, let's hope so. Lee Cohen, you are foreign policy analyst and columnist. Thank you, Lee. Appreciate it. Let's get the thoughts of my panel now. Journalist and comms advisor Linda Jubilee, anarchist and academic Dr. Lisa McKenzie, and the former Labour special advisor Paul Richards. Linda, were you gagging to ask a question there?
Well, whilst I really respect what Lee Cohen is saying, I think we can remember back to what Henry Kissinger said about the special relationship. And what he said was that America does not have special relationships, it only has interests. So I think we need to keep that at the forefront of our mind going forward now. But actually, I do think in terms of protocol, he should have flagged up to Britain that this airstrike was going to happen.
Maybe he did. Let me just clarify. Maybe he did. I spoke to an MOD source and they said, we weren't involved tonight. We don't anticipate to be involved. And they couldn't quite guarantee that we weren't given a heads up, but it was the suggestion was that we weren't.
Yeah. Well, I think that's wrong.
Paul, what's your thoughts? Has Keir Starmer muddied the relationships to such an extent that now, we're not doing joint operations against the Houthis?
Well, you've heard from two independent analysts coming in from very different angles, both saying nothing to see here. So let's see, as it pans out, whether that's still the position. But at the moment, obviously, the USA is going alone. The big picture is it's quite right that they're taking on the Houthi, who are damaging international trade, are an Iranian-backed terrorist organisation, and we should all welcome that. And I suspect the RAF will be involved in future dates. I don't think the special relationship is under threat. I mean, it's slightly threatened by the fact that Trump has decided to change sides in the middle of a war, but that might be a different question.
I don't know if he has that.
Has he changed sides, Lisa?
I don't think...
What, you're saying Trump is now a Russian...
I don't think he has.
He seems to be helping the Russians, didn't he? He withdrew all of the support for the Ukrainians, so, maybe.
I don't think he switched sides. I also don't think Donald Trump has even thinks about a special relationship. I don't think Donald Trump is America first. He says it all the time. That's his policy. That's what he's been elected on, America first. So Donald Trump thinks about America and the relationship he has with the American people. So I don't think we would be in his periphery very often at all, actually.
What about potential war with Iran? I mean, it seems unbelievable, doesn't it? You've got Ukraine, Russia, you've got Gaza, Israel, and now once again this Houthi situation, which is a proxy for Iran, is now reigniting.
But as Paul says, this situation has needed to be dealt with for a long time. Iran has needed to be dealt with for a long time, and I think it was the shame, really, of the Biden administration that he did absolutely nothing.
Well, that's what Donald Trump said in his statement tonight. I mean, it was a long statement on his Truth Social. And by the way, isn't it unbelievable we're now hearing these international developments and announcements, declarations of war and airstrikes on social media? Donald Trump's version of Twitter. Anyway, Donald Trump said Joe Biden's response was pathetically weak, so the unrestrained Houthis just kept going. It's been over a year since the US flagged commercial ships safely sailed through the Suez Canal, the Red Sea or the Gulf of Aden. There we go. I've sailed down the Suez Canal before. I mean, it is surprising that he's done this, but actually it's fairly praiseworthy because we've had enough of Houthi rebels, and I think it's quite right that he intervened so dramatically and so suddenly.
And he's clearly blaming Iran, which is
which is
You've got to ask yourself because he seems to act so quickly. You've got to ask yourself what would happen should he get involved in the China-Taiwan Straits.
Paul, that's next.
It's obviously next.
Yeah. Paul, Julie Scopes on your say. Good evening, Julie. Thanks for watching. She said, how many Houthis are over here? We have no idea. Legitimate question.
No.
That sounds a bit limerick. It's a little bit of a limerick, that is, isn't it?
There'd have to be some.
Well, we had a Palestinian guy who was supporting Hamas last week.
Yeah, and sent straight back. Quite right, too.
Well, we don't know. We don't know he sent back.
What we're arguing about, what we're talking about is how many might be here. That's a different thing.
We just don't know. And by the way, your party, Paul, you must have seen this during the week, now don't even want to do age testing on migrants. The Tories are now making a song and dance of reintroducing it back up. But we don't know who these people are coming across the channel.
Bit rich coming from them, though, isn't it, given the uncontrolled migration during the whole period of their government?
Shall I tell you what happened in the bridging hotels?
I'll give you that one.
When they took the asylum seekers into the bridging hotels, at night they had 3 military personnel, 3 guys, we assume they're guys, masked up, watching people queue up, going through into the hotels, watching their body language, trying to understand them, trying to see where they might have come from. Now, that's the 20,000 evacuees, and that's good to check those people. But do you imagine that that's...
But that's mad. That is absolutely mad that we've got to have people watching someone how they walk to try and find out where they're from.
Well, what do you think people do? It's body language. But
what I'm saying is, shouldn't we know who's coming in the country before they're allowed in the public? Shouldn't we know who they are?
Well, stay tuned because they're coming by the boats and also they're sneaking onto British holidaymaker cars. You'll see later in the show at 9:45. Stay tuned. I spoke to a couple who went for a nice holiday in France, drove back through Calais and ended up finding a bit of a surprise clinging onto the back of their bike rack. And unbelievably, they were fined. Anyway, got a nice chat with them later on in the show. Right, we move on. Have you sprung into action yet with our spring giveaway? Because it's your chance to win a fabulous designer handbag, 2 highly sought-after designer watches and an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash. Here's all the details you need to win.
Spring has sprung with a great British giveaway, and we're giving you the chance to splash out this season with an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash. Jet off on your dream holiday, treat yourself to something special, or just save it for a rainy day. You'll also receive 2 brand new designer watches and a Mulberry handbag, so you can really look the part this spring. For another chance to win the lot, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Very good luck to you. Up next, Sir Keir Starmer could be facing a huge rebellion, the biggest yet, more than the winter fuel allowance, over plans to slash £5 billion from welfare, and with many voicing deep concern over what they call draconian cuts that they say could push disabled people into poverty. Is he making the right decision? And is Labour, Paul Richards, the new nasty party? This is Ben Leo Tonight, only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point.
He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight. Now, Sir Keir Starmer could be facing a huge rebellion in the ranks over plans to slash £5 billion from welfare, with many voicing deep concern over what they call draconian cuts. Long-term sickness and disability benefits for working-age people have risen by £20 billion since the pandemic and is now forecast, get this, to hit £70 billion over the next 5 years. I think that's more than the defence budget. But the governments have defended the move, saying without reform, more people will be locked out of jobs, despite many wanting to work. That isn't just bad for the economy, it's bad for people too. So is Sir Keir Starmer making the right decision? Joining me to discuss this now is political commentator Matthew Stadland. Good evening, Matthew. What's your take on this? Some today suggesting Labour is the new nasty party. These are meant to be the people, Matthew, that Labour care most about.
Well, the Labour Party is called the Labour Party because it is concerned with people who work, isn't it? And it should also, obviously, be concerned with people who are unable to work, genuinely unable to work. And what it's got in front of it is a massive challenge. You said that the health and disability-related benefits welfare system could go up to 70 billion over the next 4 years. I have seen that figure. I've also seen a figure of 100 billion. I mean, these are eye-watering figures. If you look at the education budget, you talked about the defence budget. The education budget is 114 billion. So this is massive, massive money we're talking about. And there is a feeling that people who should or could be in work are not. And so the question is, how do you encourage those people back into work for their benefit, as well as the benefit of us, the taxpayer, but at the same time, you don't punish those who are actually genuinely in need. The devil will be in the detail, won't it, Ben?
Isn't it funny, Matt? If the Labour Party had, I mean, I heard nothing about this in their manifesto or the campaign trail. If this had been discussed or mooted by, say, the Tories during the campaign, or even Reform, whoever, we wouldn't have heard the end of it. We would have been calling them, you know, an attack on the most vulnerable in society. People would have been outraged at right-wing rhetoric. But it's the Labour Party doing this. Do you see the irony in all this?
Well, except that if you look back 10 years or so to 2013, when Rachel Reeves was the shadow work and pension secretary, she said in an interview that she wanted to be tougher than the Tories when it comes to benefits.
2013? So what's that, a decade ago?
12 years ago, yes, but we're talking about the same woman, the woman who is now our Chancellor, the woman who holds the purse strings.
Yeah, but do you expect the electorate now to remember something Rachel Reeves said 13 years ago?
What I'm trying to say to you is that it has been, I think, her view for a very long time that in order to have a functioning economy, you've got to get as many people into work as possible. Yeah. And I'm quite clear, Ben, that of course these cuts, when they come, and they look likely to come to the tune possibly of around £5 billion, that they must not hit truly vulnerable people. And that is a very difficult task ahead of them. But Labour is clear about the NHS, and it's now clear about welfare.
I'm going to bring in somebody else. OK, hold there, Matthew. I'm going to bring in Marie Buchanan, who is Britain's self-declared welfare queen. Marie, good evening. What do you make of what Matthew just said there? It's going to be carefully curated. They're going to make sure the most...
Yeah, go on. I am quite shocked, yeah. Everybody can't go to work. It's not liable. People have mental health, people have disabilities, people can't leave the house. So what do you do with people like that? You can't punish them.
Well, I assume the Labour Party won't take their benefits away.
They will. They will take their benefits. They will take their benefits.
Well, I would, as I've just made clear, make sure that I and others put a lot of pressure on Labour to make sure that they do not take benefits away from the people who really need them. But I accept that that's a very difficult thing to achieve. You talk about the politics of this. I think if you did a poll of this around the country, there'd be huge support for reform of the welfare system, because 65 billion quid at the moment and potentially 100 billion quid in a few years' time is absolutely massive. We have to make work pay. Of course, there will always be people who can't work and who truly need support, and there'll be a lot of them. And you have to have a safety net. Yeah. But if the system is broken, it needs to be fixed.
Marie, why are you called Britain's welfare queen?
8 children on benefits.
You've got 8 children on benefits. Do you mind me asking which benefits you get, how much you get per month?
I get ESA, so it's every 2 weeks, £194 every 2 weeks.
It's about 200 quid a week. So 800, I mean, that's not a lot, is it? For how many kids have you got? 8 kids?
It's not. I've got 8 of them. 8. It's not a lot.
And how...
I don't understand.
Yeah, go on.
I don't understand, right? You can contact the job centre and say you need help with the CV, you need help with looking for work, but they're not willing to help you. They say just sit back and wait.
How old are your children, Marie?
Pardon?
How old are your children?
The oldest is 22, the youngest is 11.
OK, so I'm playing devil's advocate now, and this is with respect. Why can't you work?
I can work. Mental health, the doctor signed me off. I was working as a carer, the doctor signed me off on sick.
And how long haven't you been working?
4 years now.
4 years. OK. Matthew, when you look at somebody like Marie, she's got 8 kids. The youngest is 11. They're at school. The oldest is in their 20s. She's not worked for 4 years because of mental health issues. Is Marie a candidate to have her welfare benefits cut?
I'm not going to sit here on national TV and lecture Marie or any under.
I'm not asking you to lecture her. I'm just saying on the surface.
Or any other individual, Ben. What I will do is say that looked at as a whole, it's almost certain that there are people. I'm not talking about benefit cheats, by the way. I'm talking about people who would ideally like to be in work, but where work isn't paying, it's not working for them. And that is what I think Keir Starmer is talking about when he says that the system is broken. It needs to be recalibrated. But I come back to my point, it has to be done in a way that is humane, because you cannot punish people who are already in serious trouble. You can't make poor people even poorer if they've got genuine disabilities. I've had a mental health crisis in the past myself. During the pandemic, I had a really rough time. I found it very difficult to go in and present my shows. I did, but I had a lot of family support. I know it can be incredibly tough, and it could be even tougher than it was for me. So I have sympathy for people, and that's why Labour needs to get more mental health support out there so that the people who could be working end up working.
OK. Yeah. Matthew, do you know what? I kind of agree with you, but you're also sounding fairly right-wing, so it's quite funny. Marie, last question to you. What would happen if Labour did come after your benefits and they said, Marie, I'm sorry, you've got 8 kids, they're old enough that you can go out to work, we don't really buy your mental health condition. What would you say if that happened? How would it leave you? How would it leave your life?
I would say, if you support me, I'm willing to go back to work. If you support me.
What work would you like, Marie, ideally?
Carer. As a carer.
And you can't find a job as a carer anywhere?
No. I need a CV.
What's the obstacles? You mind me asking what challenges you found?
It's because of the media. I found a lot of challenges of where they don't want my face there.
They don't want your what, sorry?
I've been in the media since 2013.
As Britain's welfare queen?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. OK. All right, well, look, Marie, best of luck to you. I hope you feel better soon and you get a job if you are keeping applying, and best of luck to your kids as well. Matthew Sadden, thank you, you right-wing bigot. Appreciate your company tonight. There we go. Right, coming up, Meghan Markle's new Netflix documentary show has only been out for a week. The reviews, though, they've not been very kind, to say the least. I'm going to be joined by a celebrity chef who's been one of those critics in the past week and has since received death threats for his assessment of the documentary with me on this very show last week. This is Ben Leo Tonight, only on GB News.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Storm Lawrence brings some unsettled weather across western parts of Europe, heavy rain and some thunderstorms. A little more settled across parts of Greece, but temperatures are going to cool off. Highs of around 20 to 21 Celsius on Sunday, but turning much cooler through the middle part of the week. As we head further west, we can see there's plenty of showers, some of these heavy bringing in some thunderstorms, and Storm Lawrence just this low out across the Azores, bringing in some heavy outbreaks of rain later on Sunday and into Monday. Largely settled through the middle part of the week, but turning cooler for Santorini.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight, every night from 11 p.m.
Ban criminals from pubs and sport games instead of sending them to prison, Minister suggests. So this is Sarah Sackman said the bans, as well as mandatory work for offenders, very much in the mix. So this is all part of what's going on with the Leveson review, and there's and he's reviewing the criminal courts and David Gauke's review of sentencing, and they're looking at sort of ways that they can not send people to prison. It's very much of a theme at the moment.
Not dealing with the causal factors.
None of the dealing of the causal factors. None of looking back into society or the community and saying what's causing this in the first place. How can we prevent any of this? And you know what? It assumes that all criminals like sport, socialising, and going to the pub. If they don't, then they're getting away scot-free. If you are a criminal and you're thinking, well, I don't really enjoy the pub. I'm not that sociable.
If you're antisocial in the first place, then that's why you committed the crime.
And a lot of criminals are. You know, they keep themselves to themselves.
I think you should go to your sentencing dressed out in a football kit.
Yeah, just got a full kit on. Oh, I was on the way to the pub.
Please don't stop me playing football. This is more akin to, you know, a mum punishing a naughty child, you know. Right, you're not allowed to go out and play table tennis because you're being bad. You're not going to the party. I mean, why don't we just tell criminals that Father Christmas isn't coming for them this year and see if that stops them? You know,
it doesn't really explain how this is going to work.
Well, no. It actually makes lockdown worse than a criminal sentence.
Well, it was.
You know, what we went through was worse than that because we weren't allowed to exercise or do any of these things. And do you know what? There's no deterrence in this anymore.
Well, that is a really good idea you've just had.
What?
What
was my idea, Josh?
If they don't want to send people to jail, they should go back to, like, the Tier 1.
Just lock them down.
Rules.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop star to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight. Now, Meghan Markle's new Netflix documentary called With Love, Meghan has been universally slammed since its release more than a week ago. The Daily Telegraph described it as an exercise in narcissism, whilst even The Guardian dubbed it complete overstyled joylessness. On my show last Saturday, I was joined by celebrity chef Jameson Stocks, who says he turned down the chance of working on what he thought was Meghan's documentary and is now glad that he did. Here's a reminder of what he had to say last week.
I didn't like the idea of me showing her how to do something and then it kind of being forced and fake. And I honestly thought it was terrible.
What's so bad about it?
I think everything. The music's quite slow, it's quite lethargic, it's quite painful. It's just painful to watch.
So you won't believe what's happened since that interview went viral online. I mean, all around the world, international newspapers, Jameson was forced to defend himself from really sick social media abuse, including death threats. And he's here with me now to talk about what's happened in this last whirlwind week. Jameson, good evening.
Hey, how are you doing?
Back. Thank you for joining me.
I'm good.
Did you expect this to happen? Because you came onto the show last week and you said, look, I'd had some informal conversations with Netflix about consulting on a cookery show. You're, of course, a celebrity chef. You've got restaurants all over the world. And you said, I thought it was Meghan's show. I wouldn't want to work for her anyway because I'm not a fan. That was it. And then it went mad. What happened since?
Oh, listen, like I said last week in the show, I had informal talks with in Soho House, actually, in New York last year, February the 9th, to be exact. Now, I've had a lot of love, I've got to be honest with you, about 70% love and about 30% hate. And yeah, it's been pretty brutal. Some of the messages were horrendous. Obviously, you know, on social media, they've been taken down, quite a lot of them. But
so, what kind of messages have you been getting?
Death threats. I've had messages saying, leave her alone. You're racist. You're this. You're that.
Calling you racist.
Yeah. Why would they get a British person on an American programme? But, I was thinking, oh, my goodness. I mean, I never actually went in on her. I never actually criticised her at all. The only thing I was upset about was the Netflix show was crap.
You actually complimented her. You said she was a good actress. She should stick to what she does best.
She was a good actress.
And this has gone all around the world, hasn't it, James? In the New York Post, in Australian newspapers,
everywhere.
In US tabloid magazines.
Yeah.
Meghan's people, seemingly, maybe people close to her, have been giving source quotes and so on.
Well, the whole sources thing to me is a load of nonsense because, I mean, it was only last week I was speaking to Closer magazine. They were trying to gaslight me into saying I wasn't in a relationship with someone for 2 days. So the whole sources thing to me is a load of rubbish. If the source wants to come out and let it known, come out.
Jameson, who do you think is behind all these death threats? They've threatened your children even as well.
Wow,
have you heard of the Sussex Squad?
I've never heard of them before. If I had heard of them, I'd have probably gone in a little bit more, to be honest with you, because I thought I was quite dignified in the way I responded to the programme. Like I said in the New York Post, it didn't matter whether it was Gordon Ramsay, Wolfgang Puck or Donald Duck. It was still a bad show. It doesn't matter who it did it. It wasn't actually about her in general.
And then, you know, more I've thought about it, and the more, you know, I've obviously spoken to quite a few newspapers, including the New York Post, that, you know, I don't know whether it was Netflix who have let her down or whether she's kind of steered it in that kind of direction where she wants to be seen as, you know, a step for life kind of thing.
Do you think Meghan or Netflix should intervene when their so-called Sussex squad lay on people like this? I mean, death threats, threatening your children, threatening to kill your children, that's pretty heavy stuff for some very mild criticism. Do you think Meghan has a responsibility to come out and say, hang on a minute, guys, these are my fans, but I do not approve of this behaviour?
Well, that's up to her, but, I mean, from a consumer point of view, this is great for Netflix because people are talking about it, people are watching the show, whether they like her or don't like her. You know, the viewing figures are well down compared to her last show with Prince Harry. Well down.
You've heard that?
I know that,
How do you know that? Because Netflix don't release their figures.
Well, I've seen figures. And also, the other thing as well, people are saying what a great success it is. It's being commissioned for a second season. Well, the second season's already finished filming.
So they've already filmed it and it's due,
it's already finished.
Okay.
So, you know, I don't quite understand that logic because realistically, there's no way Netflix is going to drop her after one season after investing so much money.
Yeah. OK, well, we can't confirm. I know you have your sources.
Well, I don't use the word sources. It's what I've been. That's what
you know. What you know. We can't verify here at GB News that the figures are down, but there we go. That's what you say. And in terms of the death threats from the so-called Sussex squad, are they continuing today?
Not really. I think it has died down a little bit. They're submitting stuff through my website, you know, submission forms, and yeah, it's just a load of rubbish.
Just emails, threats. Death threats and
silly stuff. It's just silly stuff. And then, you know, the other thing is as well is that obviously I went through the Leveson inquiry a few years back, and they're kind of digging stuff up which got taken down offline because it was false news and they're trying to throw at me. But, you know, I have no problems in standing on my opinion of a show.
Well, there we go. You've been introduced to the Sussex squad. They are infamous, sometimes quite nasty, and I think everybody who's even mildly criticised Meghan Markle over the years, some have got it worse than others. I think you've had a little mild dose, Jameson, of the Sussex squad, but some people have had some really torrid times at the hands of the Sussex squad. And some people do argue, you know, maybe it's up to Meghan to publicly intervene and tell them to calm down and behave themselves.
Well, there you go.
There we go. All right, mate, thank you for coming in. Appreciate it. Stay safe, stay away from those Sussex trolls.
Well, we'll see what happens, eh? If you don't hear from me for a while, they got me.
Right. Coming up this week, I ventured down to Dover to meet a couple who were fined as an illegal migrant had snuck into their van without them knowing in an attempt to enter the UK. They were fined, I won't tell you the amount, but it's per migrant. They went to the south of France for a nice holiday, took their van, came back into Britain, or tried to get back into Britain, and what they found was shocking. The full clip, the full interview, coming in just a second. This is Ben Leo Tonight, only on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Looking ahead into next week, for most of us it should be fairly dry. We'll continue to see some spells of sunshine, and towards the middle of the next week actually it will start to turn a little bit warmer. Reason for the settled conditions is this area of high pressure. It's not really going to go far over the next few days, but we still have this weak weather front, which will be a focus of some patchy rain as it sinks its way southwards across Scotland overnight. Further south, it's where we see the clearest of the skies, and under the clear skies, a widespread frost developing could see temperatures in the countryside as low as -4 or -5 degrees. Also, could to see a few patches of fog first thing, but they will quickly clear as we move into Sunday morning. And then a closer look across Scotland, first thing, we will see a few showers just moving in across the very far north, but for much of Scotland it should be a fairly bright start to the day. That weak front will still be around across Northern Ireland and Northern England, so a risk of a few spots of rain here, and also a fair bit of cloud for the Midlands and parts of Wales, but the further south you are, a fairly bright and sunny start today, albeit rather cold. As we move through the course of the day, quite a lot of the country seeing the cloud bubble up. We'll hang on to probably the best of the sunshine across the very far south of England and maybe also parts of western Scotland. And that cloud will be just thick enough in places to produce the odd spot of rain, but most of us remaining dry. Temperatures on Sunday similar to what we will be seeing today, highs potentially up to 10 or 11 degrees where we see the sunniest skies. Into Monday, a fair bit of cloud around as we start the day, but that will begin to break up a little bit as we move through into the afternoon. Best of the sunshine on Monday across parts of northern Scotland, maybe later on across East Anglia. And then it's really from Tuesday into Wednesday where we see increasing amounts of sunshine, and by Wednesday some of us seeing temperatures in the mid-teens.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight. Time now for Leo Unleashed, where I drag my backside out of the studio and travel all around the UK to see what life is like in your communities. What's great about where you live, how can it be improved, and how is government policy affecting you? This week I went to Dover in Kent, which of course is the gateway to our migrant crisis, to speak to a couple who took a trip to the south of France for a lovely little holiday, drove back through Calais, stopped off at a supermarket, and they found something very, very shocking at the back of their van. And what happened to them after their treatment is even more shocking. Take a look at this.
Crisis on Britain's southern border. More than 4,000 illegal migrants have crossed the Channel into England so far this year. But what happens when they ditch the small boats and instead sneak into the UK using the vehicles of unsuspecting holidaymakers? One family from Kent discovered the worst when their car was stopped by Border Force.
We went on a 3-night trip in the October half term to Calais. On our way back from our camping trip, we stopped at City Europe. We just popped in for something to do. On the way back, we had a lady stood by our van, and she had said that there were some people hanging around the back of our van trying to steal our bikes. We checked all 3 bikes were on our rack and then proceeded to Calais port because actually we felt a bit uneasy then. So once at Calais port, we got called into immigration for our van to be checked. Our van's quite big, so we did expect that. But they came round to the side door and checked in the van, under the van, everywhere, and all around the van, and then proceeded to send us off and say that we could go. Just as we were pulling away, they said, stop, you have 2 clandestines under your bike, on your bike rack, under the bike cover.
But the bike rack would have been, what, just here on the end, Jeff?
Yeah, just off the tow bar there. It's only meant to take 60 kg, so we definitely would never have thought that anyone would climb on top of it as well as 3 bikes.
And what were the migrants like? Were they adults? Were they kids?
It was, an adult and a 15-year-old?
Yeah.
Any ideas where they were from? Did Border Force explain where their nationalities?
They were from Sudan. They didn't take us out our van. They were really nice to us and explained everything that was going on, but we had to stay there while the clandestines were interviewed.
What happened to the 2 lads, the clandestines?
So they just get taken outside the port and let go to try this another day.
So they're not even detained, they're not arrested, they're just let back into...
No.
They get processed and then probably let back out the other side of France.
They do just get let outside the port. And then we were sent on our way with them saying, we understand you didn't know they were under there. You're not going to get a fine for this. It's fine. We can see they were on the back of they went inside your vehicle.
So they said at the time you won't get fined for it.
And then about a month ago, we received a fine via email to say that we have a £3,000 fine.
£3,000, 1,500 quid a head, I guess.
Yeah.
If you're going to work it out like that. Do you think that's fair?
No.
No, not at all. It's disgusting.
It's not fair. There's no warnings. When you go over to Calais with your ferry ticket, I looked on the Port of Dover their website, on the Calais port website, and there's no guidelines to. Yeah, we all know to lock our vehicle, don't we? You know, that's just common sense. But there's no guidelines on where the immigrants could get in. And so, no, it's very unfair.
Have you paid the fine yet, the £3,000?
No, we've objected the fine. So the first part of the process is to object the fine, which we have done. And then if we're not successful with that, then you have to appeal. The appeal process is quite complicated. And if we're not successful in our appeal, then we also have to pay the costs of the border force.
Oh, brilliant. So you appeal, you lose it, and then also you pay their costs as well?
Yes.
Which just seems like bully-type tactics of trying to make an easy buck, I think.
Wow. And what happens if you don't pay, eventually?
It says on the paperwork that our vehicle would be seized. But actually, through talking about this to other people, we know this happens a lot, and we're the victims and we're not being protected when we're going on a family holiday.
It's almost like you've been burgled and the perpetrators have been allowed to run off back into the community and then you've been fined for the burglary.
Yes, it is like that.
It feels like a massive scam that we've been scammed.
Lastly, what does your young lad think of it all? Has he told his mates? Is it a bit of fun to him? Is he aware of what happened?
At first, actually, when we got back, he was worried. He was like, "Oh, I'm really worried," as in, "I'm worried about them two, that the two men are going to come here." And we're like, "No, you'll be fine, Arlo. Like, they won't come here. They won't get on our van again." And he was really worried.
How old is he?
He's 7, but he has got over it now. But yeah, it did play on his mind for a little bit.
So that was Lisa Russell and Jeff Evans, who were travelling with their young son, Arlo. Before I get the thoughts of my panel, a Home Office spokesperson told GB News we're fully committed to stopping people from illegally entering the country and cracking down on people smugglers, which is why the clandestine entrant civil penalty scheme is there to ensure drivers take every reasonable step to deter irregular migration. We understand that recipients of penalties may disagree with the circumstances of the fine. The option to appeal and trigger a review is made clear in supporting documents. Panel, welcome back. There is no guidance on, say, the ferry website or the Port of Dover website. There is guidance, though, Linda, on the Home Office website. But would you expect people travelling to the south of France with their van to go on the Home Office website to look at all the guidance on there?
Talk about passing the buck. That's what's happening here. They are just abdicating responsibility for this problem. What horrified me about that interview, Ben, is this seems to be happening quite a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's thousands and thousands of pounds in fines.
It's a lot of money for that family. They're a hard-working young family.
A lot of money for a decent family. Then they go through an appeals process. All of that costs money. The courts are already overburdened. And if there are more of them, and we are told there are more, how much is that costing us just to get the fines paid?
Yeah, precisely. Lisa?
Well, there was another one this week, another case this week, where they actually got to their home and found that there was somebody in the bike rack at the back. And then they phoned the police. The police came and they've got a £1,500 fine as well.
Oh, great. So they did the good thing by telling the police that these guys had run off and they were fined. Paul, shouldn't we start fining or docking the pay of, say, Keir Starmer or Yvette Cooper every time they fail to smash the gangs or stick to their policy pledge?
I mean, it is entirely unfair, and I think the Home Office there, or the Border Force line around doing a review, I think is absolutely right. And I would advise this couple to get in touch with their MP, who could then take it up and actually stop it from going any further, because there's no way they should be fined £3,000. I mean, if they live in Dover, I don't know if they do.
Yeah, they do, yeah.
So, well, Mike is a great MP and he'll take this up. In fact, tonight, let's get in touch with him and make sure he does take this up on behalf of his constituents.
OK.
And make sure they don't have to pay that £3,000. Absolutely ridiculous.
It's awful. When you've got thousands, I mean, 4,000 since the start of the year, 2,000 in just a couple of weeks ago, which is 20% up on the same time last year, and yet you get a hard-working British couple like that with a young lad to support. They're working hard to keep their family afloat, and they're fined £3,000.
I'm going to WhatsApp him.
Anyway, moving on. More papers coming up. The first of tomorrow's newspapers in just a tick. First, though, let's get your weather.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there. Welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Looking ahead into next week, for most of us it should be fairly dry. We'll continue to see some spells of sunshine, and towards the middle of the next week, actually, it will start to turn a little bit warmer. Reason for the settled conditions is this area of high pressure. It's not really going to go far over the next few days, but we still have this weak weather front, which will be a focus of some patchy rain as it sinks its way southwards across Scotland overnight. Further south, that's where we see the clearest of the skies, and under the clear skies, a widespread frost developing. Could see temperatures in the countryside as low as -4 or -5 degrees. Also, could see a few patches of fog first thing, but they will quickly clear as we move into Sunday morning. And then a closer look across Scotland. First thing, we will see a few showers just moving in across the very far north, but for much of Scotland it should be a fairly bright start to the day. That weak front will still be around across Northern Ireland and Northern England, so a risk of a few spots of rain here, and also a fair bit of cloud for the Midlands and parts of Wales. But the further south you are, a fairly bright and sunny start today, albeit rather cold. As we move through the course of the day, quite a lot of the country seeing the cloud bubble up. We'll hang on to probably the best of the sunshine across the very far south of England and maybe also parts of western Scotland. And that cloud will be just thick enough in places to produce the odd spot of rain, but most of us remaining dry. Temperatures on Sunday similar to what we will be seeing today. Highs potentially up to 10 or 11 degrees where we see the sunniest skies. Into Monday, a fair bit of cloud around as we start the day, but that will begin to break up a little bit as we move through into the afternoon. Best of the sunshine on Monday across parts of northern Scotland, maybe later on across East Anglia. And then it's really from Tuesday into Wednesday where we see increasing amounts of sunshine, and by Wednesday some of us seeing temperatures in the mid-teens.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
You could be the next big winner of the Great British Giveaway, as we have an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash to be won. Cash that you'll be able to spend on anything you like. And if that wasn't enough, we'll also give you the latest Mulberry handbag, and not one, but 2 sought-after designer watches, so you can style it out this spring. For another chance to win the lot, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Ben Leo, and breaking tonight on the front page of tomorrow's Sunday Express. A cross-party bid has been launched to make smacking children a criminal offence in England. That's despite the Labour-run Welsh Government's concerns after being accused of creating a nanny state when they introduced the same laws back in 2022. Smacking kids, is it a good thing? Yes or no? Let us know. gbnews.com/your say. And breaking in the last few minutes, Tory leader Kemi Badenoch is set to launch a policy renewal process on Tuesday, beginning discussions to shape a full programme she hopes will take into the next government. We'll get all the details on that announcement shortly. Elsewhere, Britain's first religious education leader. There he is, Sir Hamid Patel, once led a school who invited a Jew-hating Saudi cleric to speak to children. But tonight, he's the new acting chairman of Ofsted. And who's been a naughty little pooch?
Kai is a big humper.
Joining me on the panel tonight is journalist and communications advisor Linda Jubilee, anarchist and academic Dr Lisa McKenzie, and the former Labour special advisor Paul Richards. Big show coming up, including the first of tomorrow's newspaper front pages, hot off the press. First, though, your news headlines with Sophia Wensler.
Good evening. Your headlines from the GB newsroom. Sir Keir Starmer has announced military planning for a Ukrainian peace deal is now moving to an operational phase, with a meeting in the UK next week. The Prime Minister hosted a virtual Coalition of the Willing summit this morning, where he told world leaders to keep up the pressure on Vladimir Putin for an unconditional ceasefire. Representatives from 26 countries were in attendance, including Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky and French President Emmanuel Macron. Sir Keir urged world leaders to be prepared to defend a potential deal.
President Zelensky has shown once again, and beyond any doubt, that Ukraine is the party of peace. Volodymyr has committed to a 30-day unconditional ceasefire, but Putin is trying to delay, saying there must be a painstaking study before a ceasefire can take place. Well, the world needs action, not a study, not empty words and conditions. So my message is very clear. Sooner or later, Putin will have to come to the table. So this is the moment. Let the guns fall silent. Let the barbaric attacks on Ukraine once and for all.
In other news, authorities in the US have confirmed that at least 11 people have died in Missouri after tornadoes tore through central and southern states. The state's emergency management service has reported widespread damage across multiple regions, but around 138 million people are still at risk of severe weather in central and southern US states. Tornado warnings are still in place in parts of Illinois, Missouri, Arkansas, Mississippi, Indiana and Kentucky. Now, the Russian captain of a container ship which crashed into a US oil tanker in the North Sea has been remanded in custody. Earlier today, Vladimir Motin appeared at Hull Magistrates Court, charged with gross negligence manslaughter in relation to the collision between the two vessels earlier this week. Filipino national Mark Angelo Pernia has been named as the missing crew member, who is now presumed dead. And the Prince and Princess of Wales went head-to-head as they cheered on opposing sides at the Wales versus England Six Nations match this afternoon. It comes after they were spotted greeting injured players ahead of the game at Principality Stadium today. Kate, who is patron of the Rugby Football Union, and Prince William, who has been patron of the Welsh Rugby Union since 2016, were both in attendance at the highly anticipated rugby game, where England beat Wales 68-14. Those are the latest GB News headlines. More in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight. One newspaper is in. That's a change, isn't it? Normally we have an abundance by now, but it's the Sunday Express. The headline reads, "Smacking children could be a criminal offence. The days of parents smacking their kids could be numbered," as MPs attempt to change the law this week. A cross-party bid has been launched to bring England into line with Wales and Scotland, which have already banned the physical punishment of children. The move has been driven by recent horrific cases of child abuse by parents. Oh, dearie me. Not sure what to think of this. Linda, Lisa and Paul, welcome back. Are you all parents here? Who's parents?
Yes.
Yeah. You're all parents?
Yeah.
Do you smack your kids? Or did you when they were young?
No, I mean, when they were very little, I'd give them a little tap so they know I was displeased.
Where would it be?
Probably the bottom or something like that, even the rolled-up magazine or something, just to show that I was displeased. By the time they reached the age of 4, kind of the age of reason, I'd start talking to them, because one thing a child does when they start getting slapped, I mean severely slapped when they're older, they'll work out how much pain they can take and how far they can do, how far they can go to calibrate their behaviour. It's a very, very unpleasant thing to do, to slap a child.
Just even talking about it, actually, you talking about the levels of pain to dish out, it just makes me feel really uncomfortable.
But they will do it.
When I was at school, we used to get the slipper
I did.
and the cane. I mean, when I was at school,
Red drumsticks.
You both don't look that old, surely?
Yeah, but I'm 57.
You're only mid-40s, aren't you?
No, come on.
Smooth.
But I got the slipper. I got the slipper at school.
There is no reason why an adult should hit a child in any circumstance, even if it is a parent. And what it teaches the child, by the way, is that violence is a way to get what you want. You know, that's how you enforce discipline, through violence and pain. No, you know, it's absolutely no reason ever to do it. And
Do you think, Paul, that this...
law,
Do you think this should be part of a state, the state, then?
Yeah.
The state should say that...
You and I disagree on this, don't we? I think there should be a state, and you don't think there
That's right, I know. I
think the state has a role here, which is to say, yeah, this is illegal, and that's what laws are for. But
I don't think the state...
No, I don't think the state...
I don't think the state should intervene, really.
No,
unless it's
anything else.
No,
that's the anarchist.
No, but I don't think that. I don't think that.
Well, you're a libertarian. See, the pair of you, you're the horseshoe joining at the back.
I simply believe in thinking about how I parent a child, and a small.
You just said you didn't hit yours, so why should anyone be hitting a child?
No, I did when they were very, very little. Might roll up a magazine, give them a good tap.
But
let's face it, we're not going to be talking about.
If this is in law, though, what would be the difference between sort of tapping your child and then the child saying, "I've been hit"?
Doing that either. I don't think there should be violence.
What about grabbing a child to get them to move along, you know, from the scruff of the neck and saying, "Come on, get out, move along, move along"?
That's not
what's
smacking,
the threshold?
is it? That is not smacking.
It's roughing up.
The law would decide, and you can have laws that can be calibrated to make sure that the idiocies of those things happen.
I think you've got to concentrate on actually supporting parents so they develop the right intuition and the right level of confidence in order to raise their children properly. But specifically legislating.
It was a great shame that we abolished Sure Start, where a lot of that was taught. But I do think that hitting children is wrong, and the law should say so.
Who was that taught to? Sure Start, you know, where you said we abolished Sure Start.
The Conservatives.
Because that, but that's who. But you said that's who. We taught this at Sure Start. Who was being taught?
Well, other mums. It was a sort of it was a quasi anarcho-syndicalist organisation. Sure Start. They were run by the parents. It was rather good.
Richard Marriott
wasn't.
Richard Marriott, on your say, you remember. Good evening, Richard. You said a smack is not the same thing as child abuse. The governments must not get involved in family life. I don't agree with smacking, but if a parent wants to give their kids a whack, I'd say let them do it. It's up to them. I don't agree with it. I'd never lay a hand on my boys. I actually got the wooden spoon when I was young. My mum used to. I used to get the wooden spoon in the kitchen on the bottom. Never did me any harm. Did it?
I got the slipper. I got the slipper at school.
Yeah.
But I was very naughty.
OK, let's move on, shall we? Should we do this Tory news? Some breaking news in the last few minutes. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch. We're going to go to this shortly, actually. We're going to wait for some detail. There's an announcement coming up to do with Tory policy in Kemi Badenoch. I think it's probably the announcement of an announcement. Elsewhere, there was a bit of news today in terms of Ofsted. They've got a new chairman. It's a guy who it's caused some actual... did you see the story today about the chairman?
Yes.
Hamid Patel.
Yeah.
He is being dubbed the first religious leader of Ofsted, and he's caused a little bit of controversy because he was head of a school where they invited this Saudi cleric, and the clerics got formed previously for talking about Jews being pigs and monkeys. Lisa, what's your thoughts on this appointment?
I mean, I'm more bothered that...
Should we get his picture up as well? There's so
because the picture is kind of hate-baity, isn't it?
You think it's hate-baiting?
I do think it is a bit, yes. I do. I've been watching Twitter for the last couple of days about this, and people are getting very hot under the collar about it. What I would say is that when it comes to the state, and especially education, I don't think we should have any religion in there at all, any.
So this guy, Sir Hamid, let's keep his picture up. He's the Chief Exec of Star Academies Trust, which runs nearly 40 primary schools and secondary schools in Britain, including several Islamic schools. The Trust also runs a Christian school and grammar schools, so it's not just Islamic schools, with many of its institutions rated outstanding by Ofsted. But according to the Daily Telegraph, he was also previously the head teacher of Tudor Hill, probably butchered that, Islam Girls High School in Blackburn. The school is an interesting one because it became one of the first in the country to urge pupils to wear a hijab outside of school. And guidance reportedly told pupils to, quote, recite the Quran at least once a week and, quote, not bring stationery to school that contains un-Islamic images such as pictures or pop stars. So this is one of the schools under his watch, right? Under his leadership, the school was also criticised over a visit in 2010 from Sheikh Abdul Rahman al-Saudias, a Saudi Arabian cleric, who allegedly previously described Jews as pigs. The cleric also prayed for God to, quote, terminate the Jews. There's no suggestion these remarks were made during the visit to the school itself. Discussing the visit, Sir Hamid told the Sunday Times way back in 2013 the girls wanted to see this guy with 5 million followers. They had seen him on YouTube. He stayed 20 minutes.
Well, the visit should never have happened.
Right.
It doesn't matter how many followers he had, and it doesn't matter how many girls decided they wanted to hear from him. But I do think this is a little bit of a storm in a teacup because he is only the interim head of Ofsted. So he is keeping the seat warm for someone else. More importantly, who is the next person going to be?
Paul, do we want sectarian education? We've already got sectarian politics.
I mean, the Campaign for Anti-Semitism statement this evening says, well, they hope that he has learned his lesson from inviting this odious man with his anti-Semitic views into a school and, you know...
It wasn't a massive endorsement, was it? It was very, very cautious from the...
Very cautious. So I think we have to wait and see that he has learned those lessons, because, I mean, those kinds of views have no place whatsoever in our school system.
But I think there's a wider issue here about religion in state education. You know, I think if schools are getting state money, they're getting money from the state. I don't think they should be promoting any religious...
Catholics?
Neither. Catholic,
isn't that
Muslim, Islam.
If they want to...
But I think if you want to send your child to a religious school, then, you know, pay for it.
That's impossible.
I don't think the state should pay for that.
Is it possible, Paul? I mean, this chap, Sir Hamid Patel, who's the interim chairman of Ofsted, previously, as we just described then, he, as a head teacher at one of his schools, he was telling children to recite the Quran, not to bring in images of pop stars because it's not Islamic. Can you separate that? If that's your inherently held belief, that's your religious belief, how can you separate that from your public work life and your duties as the chairman of Ofsted?
I think you can, because I think he obviously is running a large trust where there are Christian schools as well, so I hope he manages to learn those lessons. But, you know, the Catholics in Catholic schools are taught to Catholic doctrine and to do Catholic things, and the Jews are in the Jewish schools. So, I mean, this is what happens in schools where there is a religious overtone, you know, whether we like it or not.
I mean, my children all went... I'm a Catholic, and my children all went to Catholic schools. They got a very, very good education. Catholic schools have a very good...
Well, the C of E ones do as well. That's why people are on the knees to save the fees, as the famous phrase
all
goes.
of the religions across the board to my children, not just Catholicism.
In the Catholic school?
In the Catholic school.
Interesting.
So I think it's a... And there's nothing wrong with that, because I hear people constantly saying, well, you know, we're a Christian nation. But are we? If we don't practice Christianity, how can we...
Well, we're actually a no...
Oh, and I don't want to hear that argument about, well, we got Christian values.
No,
because that does not wash...
What I was going to say is actually, no, we're not, because 51% of us have no religion at all. So, if anything, we're actually...
So why does everyone keep going on about we are a Christian nation?
Linda shot me down like a sniper.
We have no...
What I was going to say.
51% of us say we have no religion at all. So
we do live by Christian values, whether people are conscious of it or not. We live our lives with Christian values. I mean, they're not inherently Christian. They're just being a good
human
person.
values.
Exactly, yeah. And talking of Catholic schools, there's one near me which is apparently it's so good it's almost on the standard of a private school.
Yeah.
And do you know what all the parents do?
Take their children to church.
They take their kids to church. They get baptised. They're not interested in religion or anything like that, but they take them to get baptised and then they get into the school.
Well, that lacks integrity, but it does go on all the time.
Yeah.
What are you going to do, Ben?
With my kids?
Yeah.
Well, hopefully they become professional athletes, so they won't need to. We'll see. We'll see. I can dream. Right, moving on. Have you sprung into action yet with our Great British giveaway? Your chance to win a designer handbag, 2 highly sought-after watches, and £17,777 in tax-free cash. It's an amazing prize package, and it could be yours. Here's all the details you need.
Spring has sprung with a Great British giveaway, and we're giving you the chance to splash out this season with an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash. Jet off on your dream holiday, treat yourself to something special, or just save it for a rainy day. You'll also receive 2 brand new designer watches and a Mulberry handbag, so you can really look the part this spring. For another chance to win the lot, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck to you. Coming up, the editor of the Sunday Express will join us to talk through Sunday's biggest stories, including the front page, and this is a biggie, of The Observer, of all papers. After a tense cabinet meeting, the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, Paul Richards' dear leader, he's considering a shock U-turn on cutting disabled benefits. What does this say about the Prime Minister? If true, is he weak? Is he on the ropes? We'll discuss that next. This is Ben Leo Tonight, only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Nana Akweer, weekends from 3 p.m.
One woman whose story embodies these qualities is Daphne Barrack. She is a cancer survivor, and her journey through breast cancer was transformed by the unyielding support of Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York. When the Duchess learned of her own cancer diagnosis, she insisted that Daphne got a mammogram. Reluctantly, Daphne did this. She went and was followed, and what followed was a life-altering diagnosis, an early-stage tumour. But the fight didn't stop there. Even after surgery, Daphne was told her cancer was aggressive, and she faced the gruelling challenge of preventative chemotherapy. Thanks to her perseverance, the support of others, and the relentless push for Sarah, Daphne is now in full recovery. Well, I'm pleased to say that Daphne joins me now. Daphne, thank you very much for joining me on the programme.
Thank you,
So, Daphne, what a story. Hey, I mean, you were so lucky that Sarah Ferguson, your friend, was there to tell you to go and have that check. Was there any sign to you or any symptom to you that would have irked your suspicion to get some form of mammogram done?
As you know, I'm a very, very busy television interviewer, so it's very easy for people like you and I to be in denial, right? And when Sarah was diagnosed with cancer, nobody knew. Only my husband, Bill, and I knew. And her family, of course, we she rang me in the middle of the night. She said, "Oh my God, I have bad news." And when it leaked to the press, when she was going through a big mastectomy, she's so brave. I penned a very personal love letter, which was published on my usual outlet in the UK, The Sun and the Daily Mail. And I just joked, and when Sarge called me in the middle of the night and said I have breast cancer, it wasn't really the perfect time to mention that my mother died from breast cancer.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point.
He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight. More papers have dropped. Hurrah, we've got some finally, starting with the Sunday Telegraph. Wes Streeting, war on NHS waste is just the beginning. Hundreds of official bodies cluttering up the service as the Health Secretary is to wield the axe again. And there's a picture there of Prince William and Catherine at the rugby today. Looking good. The Daily Mail. Well, this is the front page, isn't it? At the top. Liz Truss. She was intoxicating. She was exhausting. My 18-month affair with Liz Truss, the former Prime Minister. Exclusive. Tory minister's eye-popping memoir. We don't know who the Tory minister is yet with this kiss and tell. The story's not fully out, but yeah, interesting one for tomorrow. And Spy Chief, I told Number 10 COVID did leak from a lab. A Labour minister was last night at the centre of an explosive row over claims he rubbished high-level intelligence, pointing to COVID's origins in a Chinese laboratory. Who'd have guessed? And The Observer... This is the big one. Prime Minister considers U-turn on cut to benefits for disabled people. The move comes after what's reported as a tense cabinet meeting, and ministers have left the door open to a humiliating U-turn for the Prime Minister on their highly contentious plans to cut benefits for disabled people. Well, I'm delighted to be joined now by the editor of the Sunday Express, David Wooding. David, good evening. Thank you for joining me. I couldn't think of a more perfect man to discuss this with. A tense cabinet meeting and now a mooted U-turn. Is this a sign of weakness, if true?
Well, it's a difficult one for Keir Starmer, this, because he's had quite a good week, but only on the international front. He's shown quite a lot of leadership. But what's been going on behind the scenes, and which has come to fruition in that tense cabinet meeting on Tuesday, is that MPs have been lobbying him against plans to cut benefits. Now, he's got very little room for manoeuvre here, neither has his Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, because, as we know, she's put taxes up. It's still not enough to solve the problems and give her more headroom. And now, of course, we're being told we need to spend more money on defence, for obvious reasons, because of all that's going on in Ukraine and the threat from Russia. And one of the things being looked at was cutting benefits, in particular the personal independence payment. This was set up to replace the disability living allowances. About 4.8 million people on this. And MPs of all kinds, the new MPs, the left wing of the party, and indeed more than one minister have been lobbying, along with peers, to have this removed. And the indication from both the Sunday Times and the Observer tonight, who both got this story, is that there's going to be a bit of a U-turn.
Well, I wasn't aware the Sunday Times had also got it as well. I mean, that gives some weight to the story then, doesn't it, if there's multiple sources or indeed the same source. Interesting. I've got my panel here, David. They're keen to have a chat with you as per previous weeks. Paul Richards is here, former Labour Special Advisor. Paul, have you got a question for David?
I just wonder, David, how much credence you give this, because it seems to be there are two sources. One is a Downing Street source and one is the department. But this is at the level of SPADs, I think, and I don't think it's a sort of serious announcement. And we haven't actually had the Green Paper yet anyway on welfare reform. So I just wonder if this is a bit of froth, really, at this stage. What would you say?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's difficult one to spin this one, because officially, the Labour Party hasn't announced any cuts.
Exactly.
That's all been done through smokes and mirrors. So they can quite reasonably say, we never said we were going to cut these benefits. What U-turn? What U-turn? We weren't going that way in the first place. But we all know how it sometimes works. Sometimes kites are flown to try and see what the reaction is. But clearly the reaction has been quite favourable in the press, I would say, generally, because the benefits bill has ballooned over many years, and governments, left and right, have tried to tackle this. I mean, you and I remember back when Frank Field was thinking the unthinkable and clashed with Harriet Harman, the then Social Services Secretary. That never happened. Then we had George Osborne in the coalition days talking about the working man and woman opening their bedroom curtains at 6 o'clock in the morning to go to work and seeing them drawn among neighbours who were on benefits. So,
but the issue, David, is that there is a perverse incentive inside the system, which is you get a lot more money if you're signed off sick and you don't have to be looking for work than if you are genuinely unemployed. That's why the bill has ballooned, is because so many people are being signed off sick, and a lot of those are not actually legitimate.
David, I've got Dr. Lisa McKenzie here who's got a question for you, if you don't mind.
Do you think that Keir Starmer has been sort of doing a lot of the global stage and sort of been prancing around quite a lot, and he's perhaps took his eye off the ball to sort of national issues? You know, has he been choosing Davos rather than the UK?
Well, yeah, he was dubbed Never Hear Keir at one stage because he was taking to the world statesman type routine, and that in the past that tends to have been an action taken by MPs who are having trouble at home. They go and stand on the world stage to avoid the problems at home. But in fairness, in the last few months, it has been important to be on the world stage with all that's going on in Ukraine and with the new president of the United States. And I think Keir Starmer's done rather well there. And it might well be that his back was turned a little bit on this. But in reality, I think probably what's happened is he's been lobbied really hard and they've had to stop and think again. They may not, as Paul says, they may not have actually decided precisely what they were going to do. But if they were thinking hard about it, they're thinking hard again by the sounds of it.
OK, and Linda Jubilee's got a question for you, comms advisor and journalist. Linda?
So do you think, David, that there is some danger here that Keir Starmer is actually developing policy along the lines of what's acceptable or what's not acceptable in communication terms? Because he's kind of put this out there and now appears to be very concerned about the reaction to it and actually changing his view and changing things on the run like this could be very, very damaging from a communications point of view.
Yes, there's been some comment pieces out in the newspapers and online in the past few weeks, Linda, saying that Keir's moved to the right wing, and in fact, some right-wing commentators saying, "Good on you, Keir, you're doing a good job." And I think what he's trying to do, what he really needs to try and do, is get a balance here with showing that he's tough on the budget, and at the same time, he's got a caring side to him, which is what one of Labour's brands is, that they care about the vulnerable in society. So this is a difficult path for Keir Starmer to tread. The reality is that 25% of all government spending almost goes on benefits. So it has got to be tackled. The latest is that I think I read that it's going up from 287 billion last year, and it's forecast to be over 300 billion this year. And they're looking for something like £5 to £6 billion cuts in that area because there's nowhere else to cut. So if he doesn't cut this particular benefit, he's going to have to find some way of saving some money.
David, interesting you were talking about Keir Starmer's reputation on the world stage. I interviewed today for tomorrow's show the former Prime Minister of Poland, Mateusz Morawiecki, who left office in 2023. He was saying Sir Keir Starmer in Poland and across Europe is held in such high regard. I said, really? I said, domestically, he's maybe struggling a little bit. He's saying, no, in Poland back home, people think the world of him.
Yeah, well, perhaps people will get to grips with it when they see the bigger picture of what's happening in Ukraine and Russia. And I think he's done a job in uniting Europe. And in fact, I think also there might be a Brexit benefit here, because one of the problems of Brexit was we were at odds a little bit with the European Union. Now, without actually taking us back into the European Union, Keir Starmer, because of Ukraine, has built some bridges with the European Union, showed that we're friends and we can work together without being part of a political bloc.
OK, David, before I let you go, on the front page of the Mail on Sunday is this, it's a kiss and tell. She was intoxicating, exhausting. My 18-month affair with Liz Truss, according to a Tory minister. Any idea who the minister is?
It wasn't me. I had lunch with her a few times, interviewed her a couple of times. I think I know who this is.
Who is it?
Now, I mean, she was... There is an MP who she was named as having an affair with.
Well, actually, David, if you don't know for sure who is mentioned in this the medals,
I think I know who it might be.
For certain. If you know for certain, spill the beans. If not, don't.
I don't think I'll say it, but I'll come back on the program of the day and tell you whether I've got it right or not.
I
would like to drop GB News in the legal.
Well, no, that'd be me finished. We've descended into Jeremy Kyle, David. That only took 20 minutes. There we go. Right, we've got some more front pages. You can hang on the line if you like, David. Let's have a quick look. The Sunday Times. It goes with Liz Kendall as well, so this is the second source about the reverse on the benefit cut. Liz Kendall there, from the DWP, suggesting that they could U-turn on it, and then the Sun headline reads, TV Jack splits from Dan. Very good. And 2 free tickets to Chessington if you fancy them. You still there, David? Oh, he's coming back. He's coming back. Panel, hello, David. Welcome back. Just very quickly before you go, again, the second source about this benefit story, Sunday Times. It's got some weight, no?
Yes, it's clear that I would guess it could be MPs who are saying they've been in and spoken to various ministerial aides, or possibly Liz Kendall, the DWP secretary, or people in Downing Street, and know that they're getting a positive. Sounding back about their opposition to the cuts.
All right, David Wooding, editor of the Sunday Express. Appreciate your company. Thank you, David. Hopefully chat to you again next weekend. Right, let's head to a break. More front pages I have dropped. We'll get stuck into them after this. Don't go anywhere.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Storm Lawrence brings some unsettled weather across western parts of Europe, heavy rain and some thunderstorms. A little more settled across parts of Greece, but temperatures are going to cool off. Highs of around 20 to 21 Celsius on Sunday, but turning much cooler through the middle part of the week. As we head further west, we can see there's plenty of showers, some of these heavy bringing in some thunderstorms, and Storm Lawrence just this low out across the Azores, bringing in some heavy outbreaks of rain later on Sunday and into Monday. Largely settled through the middle part of the week, but turning cooler for Santorini.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here with an exclusive opportunity just for you, our incredible GB News viewers. We're giving you the opportunity to win a VIP studio tour right here at GB News HQ. Plus, you'll also get to meet yours truly. It's easy to enter. Just head to gbnews.com/community competition and follow the easy steps. Don't miss out. Enter now, and I'll see you soon at GB News. Full T's and C's apply.
Britain's Newsroom. Weekday mornings from 9:30.
I watched the video yesterday with Meghan Markle announcing this relaunch. What did you make of the video?
It's constantly this rebranding thing that's going on, which is quite interesting. We've had different kind of, way back to Sussex Royal at the very beginning. Here we've now got this new lifestyle series that's coming out. Obviously, she's got this new brand that's going to go alongside it. It's very difficult because royals, as we've said many, many times before, this is not something royals typically kind of do. And obviously these are no longer, if you like, working members of the royal family, but still, Prince Harry, as I keep saying, is a senior member of the royal family. So it's quite a kind of uncharted territory that they're going into. And as I said, this is a bit of a disaster because everything they seem to kind of do when it comes to branding, it just doesn't seem to work.
They seem to really be struggling to find their purpose in the US. Do you think that's fair? I mean, Prince Harry, of course, has got the Invictus Games, which is just the most wonderful thing that he has set up. But it appears that they're not obviously part of the royal family anymore in terms of working royals. They're not senior working royals, but not able to make it in the business world yet either.
You're right, Elliot. I think the Invictus Games is definitely the kind of saving grace. That's the thing that everybody kind of admires and respects them for. But then it's when they keep going back into this kind of celebrity branded lifestyle. I don't think anyone's really that hugely interested. As you said, in the States, you kind of hear people are for them, people are against them. I think most people would rather that they weren't kind of doing this. I think we've said this so many times before that, as members of the royal family, they should continue down that line and going into this kind of business world. It just, I think I'm right in saying historically with royals and kind of business, it doesn't really work.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back. Let's have another spin on the Sunday front pages, starting with the Sunday Express. The headline reads, "Smacking children could be a criminal offence." A cross-party bid has been launched to bring England into line with Wales and Scotland, which have already banned the physical punishment of children. Fierce debate on that tonight on Your Say. Lots of you suggesting that the government should not get involved in family life. The Sunday Telegraph headline reads, "Wes Streeting. The war on NHS waste is just the beginning. Hundreds of official bodies are cluttering up the health service, apparently, as the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, is to wield the axe again." The Mail on Sunday, there's this story about Liz Truss having an 18-month affair, apparently, with a Tory minister. We still don't know who the minister is. Spy chief, "I told Number 10 COVID did leak from China lab." The Observer, this was the interesting one tonight. Prime Minister considers a U-turn on cut to benefits for disabled people. There was this rumoured £5 billion cut to the welfare bill, which was absolutely ballooning. The Observer, though, suggests after a very tense cabinet meeting that Keir Starmer could be swayed to row back on the decision. The Sunday Times, a similar story. Liz Kendall set to backtrack on benefits freeze. The Work and Pension Secretary is receiving a backlash, apparently, from Labour MPs over the government's welfare reform. And the Sun on Sunday, TV Jackie splits from Dan, crisis as he moves out of family home. Good luck, Dan. And the Sunday Express, yeah, there we go, smacking children. We've done that one. Welcome back to my panel, Linda, Lisa, Paul Richards. Some news breaking this hour from the Conservative Party. Tory leader Kemi Badenoch is set to launch the party's policy renewal process next Tuesday, beginning discussions around shaping a full programme she hopes she can take into government. Since taking over as leader of the Conservative Party, Miss Badenoch has been criticised by some for lacking a clear stance on key policy areas. And back in December, she defended that approach, saying she must focus on regaining voters' trust first. Ms Badenoch has already pledged to reverse Labour's tax on private schools and has said that the UK must spend 3% of GDP on defence by 2030. The announcement means serious conversations in the pipeline with members, think tanks, businesses and frontline workers will begin, as each Shadow Secretary of State will lead in their respective areas to ensure the Conservatives have, quote, a plan that will get government working for the British people once more. Paul Richards, this sounds like an announcement of an announcement.
I have to say, I've been involved a few of these on the Labour side because we spent a lot of time in opposition, and it's a thing that opposition parties do. They don't want to set out their stall completely this early because either it'll get trashed or the other side nicks it. So you set up a policy review, you have a lot of round tables, a lot of meetings, a lot of sandwiches, and you have a big talk for about 2 years, and then you have a manifesto nearer the election. This is just nonsense. This is what they get up to fill the time.
Linda, they embargo this announcement until 10:30 tonight. I mean, what's the big announcement?
Well, I don't think there is a big announcement, but actually, if you look at it, if you look at the leadership contest itself, it was clear that Kemi Badenoch won it because of her conceptual thinking. That's actually what took her over the line. So there does need to be some outline of policy.
When does that start, then?
Well, it starts now, doesn't it? That's what they're saying.
Right.
We are going to outline policy, and there's nothing wrong with outlining policy. You don't want to be too specific for the reasons you have just pointed out. But one of the things she does need to do, because she isn't cutting through, either PMQs or with the general public, she actually needs to develop some kind of standing where she has resonance with the voting public.
I mean, we're going to have a by-election on the 1st of May, and she's going to come third.
But who's going to come? But who's coming first?
Well, I'm calling it for reform, as you know.
Really?
Yeah. It's for them to lose. Yeah, I think it's for them to lose. I think if Farage can't win in that by-election, in that circumstance, then it's...
And do you think the latest debacle will affect the result of the run?
I don't think most people have heard of Lowe and Tyson and the rest, though. I don't think that's the voting...
Well, people read the front page of newspapers.
Lisa, did the Conservatives miss a trick with Robert Jenrick? Because he, arguably, some people are saying he's been very vocal on social media, lots of flashy videos talking about shoplifting, this and that.
Well, the thing is with Kemi and Robert Jenrick, he is making a lot of headlines and he is trying to hold the government to account. So that is something that he is trying to do. Whereas I agree with Linda, she doesn't seem to have a persona of holding the Prime Minister to account.
It's terrible to accuse, isn't it?
And
after week.
And that's really her job now, because she's in opposition.
Right.
So her job is to be holding the government to account, and she's not doing it. To be honest, I don't know how many of the front bench shadow ministers that I would know now in the Conservative.
There are some, aren't there? Most of them not household names in their own households, though, are they? Let's face it. I mean,
there's a big undercurrent of popularity for Robert Jenrick, though, within the party. I mean, I can tell that from going to events. I've met him and I've spoken to him.
Do you think Kemi will be the leader of the Conservative Party at the next election?
I do. I think she will.
She's going to stand the course?
Yeah.
Linda's being rather tight-lipped there.
Yeah.
I don't. You know what? I have so supported her in this leadership, but based on her actual performance at PMQs and everything else, I think there's a possibility that
I'm teasing you.
And I think
this is what the
Jenrick is waiting in the wings.
Let me read you some names of the Shadow Cabinet and tell me if you think they could possibly replace Kemi. So you've got Mel Stride, Shadow Chancellor, Richard Fuller, Shadow Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Priti Patel, Shadow Foreign Secretary, Chris Philp, Shadow Home Secretary, Laura Trott, Alex Burghardt, James Cartledge, Andrew Griffith, Claire Coutinho, Robert Jenrick, Secretary of State for Justice.
He's the only name that
Robert Jenrick's waiting in the wings.
He's been on manoeuvres, hasn't he?
He is waiting in the wings, but do you think the Tories have learned anything over the last 13 years about swapping leaders?
I agree.
And Kemi was voted in by the members.
Yes, she was,
She's the democratically, if you want to call it that, as far as the members go, elected member.
You know, would the Tory members stand for more of this sort of getting rid of people and bringing new people in? You know, that kind of lost them the election.
I think the problem is that the Tory party is like two parties within a party, and getting rid of this internecine fighting that goes on has to be dealt with almost before anything else. They all need to be marching to the beat of the same drum. That's what needs to happen here.
OK. Let's hop stateside, because the Vice President, J.D. Vance, he launched another blistering attack on Europe today. He said that the West is risking civilisational suicide. Take a look at this.
I really believe that we have a great deal in common with Europe. And I'm not, yes, the Europeans annoy me sometimes, and yes, I disagree with them on certain issues, but we have to remember that is the cradle of Western civilization. The entire idea of Christian civilization that led to the founding of the United States of America, that was formed in Europe. The cultural bonds, the religious bonds, these things are going to last beyond political disagreements, but I think that Europe, and frankly, I would have said this about America a year ago, but Europe is at risk, I think, of engaging in civilizational suicide. They are unable to, or unwilling, too many countries to control their borders. You see them starting to push back against that, and good, that's a good thing. You see them starting to limit the free speech of their own citizens, even as those citizens are protesting against things like the border invasion that got Donald Trump and a number of European leaders elected. So, look, I want Europe to thrive. I want them to be an important ally. Part of that is going to be Europe respecting its own people, respecting its own sovereignty, and America can't do that job for them.
Linda, you're not happy?
Well, I'm just wondering how Europe could be the cradle of the Christian religion when, in fact, it's the Middle East. I mean, am I wrong in thinking that Jesus was actually born in Bethlehem? That the whole Christian religion started there and not Europe?
It's a fair point, isn't it? Yeah. Whenever these guys start spouting off like this, you realise you're sort of in a post-truth environment where they just say anything they like.
What do you make of the content of his warning, Lisa? I mean, whether...
Well, so he's basically what he's doing this thing that he did last time, which is speaking over the heads of the politicians and to the public. That's what he's doing. He did this quite well, actually, when he was in Germany, and he spoke over the heads of the people that were in the room, and he was speaking to he was speaking to the public. And
that's
I think
a technique.
Yeah, I think it does work.
Well, lots of viewers on your say are saying that they love him.
They do like him.
The next US president.
Probably quite soon. The way
he's quite smart. He's not quite smart. He's very smart.
Ordinary people do like him.
I don't. I'm an ordinary person. I think he's dangerous.
You're a Labour-loving fool.
But ordinary
Americans.
But also ordinary. If you come out into the Red Wall where I live, people do like him.
OK. Should we take a look at a funny clip that caught my eye this week? Anyone a dog owner here? Pet owner?
No.
Used to be.
A rabbit.
Exactly.
All right, we'll take a look at this naughty pooch. He got a reports from his doggy day centre, kind of like a school report. Anyway, take a look.
This pup had the funniest reaction when he listened to the voicemail left by his doggy daycare.
I wanted to give you a quick update. Kai is a big humper. He's overstimulated, literally humping everyone. And a lot of the dogs did not like it. He is social, but he's more concerned about humping everybody than he is playing.
Who, me?
Exactly.
Me? Poor Kai.
Oh, yeah.
My sister's got 6 dogs.
Oh my God.
6. Are they humpers?
Oh.
No,
right,
she gets them. She gets them done.
I don't know. More coming up. Big weekend fails coming up in just a tick. This is Ben Leo Tonight, only on GB News.
Hello there. Welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Looking ahead into next week, for most of us it should be fairly dry. We'll continue to see some spells of sunshine, and towards the middle of the next week, actually, it will start to turn a little bit warmer. Reason for the settled conditions is this area of high pressure. It's not really going to go far over the next few days, but we still have this weak weather front, which will be a focus of some patchy rain as it sinks its way southwards across Scotland overnight. Further south, it's where we see the clearest of the skies, and under the clear skies, a widespread frost developing could see temperatures in the countryside as low as -4 or -5 degrees. Also, could to see a few patches of fog first thing, but they will quickly clear as we move into Sunday morning. And then a closer look across Scotland, first thing, we will see a few showers just moving in across the very far north, but for much of Scotland it should be a fairly bright start to the day. That weak front will still be around across Northern Ireland and Northern England, so a risk of a few spots of rain here, and also a fair bit of cloud for the Midlands and parts of Wales, but the further south you are, a fairly bright and sunny start today, albeit rather cold. As we move through the course of the day, quite a lot of the country seeing the cloud bubble up. We'll hang on to probably the best of the sunshine across the very far south of England and maybe also parts of western Scotland. And that cloud will be just thick enough in places to produce the odd spot of rain, but most of us remaining dry. Temperatures on Sunday similar to what we will be seeing today, highs potentially up to 10 or 11 degrees where we see the sunniest skies. Into Monday, a fair bit of cloud around as we start the day, but that will begin to break up a little bit as we move through into the afternoon. Best of the sunshine on Monday across parts of northern Scotland, maybe later on across East Anglia. And then it's really from Tuesday into Wednesday where we see increasing amounts of sunshine, and by Wednesday, some of us seeing temperatures in the mid-teens.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
We're
proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. One more paper has dropped. It's the Sunday Mirror. Good story. New hope for Brit's death row Gran. This is Lindsay Sandyford. She smuggled, allegedly, cocaine into Indonesia. She was facing a firing squad, but a new law could bring her fresh hope. Time now for the big weekend fails. I will start with mine. Let's take a look at this. It's going to be a Donald Trump getting attacked by a microphone. Let's take a look.
Mr. President, obviously you're concerned.
She just became a big story tonight, right? Yes, sir. Did you see that?
No, he took it in good spirits, didn't he? Somebody did say, though, imagine if it was tipped with something poisonous or cyanide, a big security risk. Linda, this is yours.
Just caught a baby wombat. Look at the mother. It's like, oh, it's chasing after her.
I caught a baby wombat.
It's just an outrage. And, you know, I suggest to this so-called influencer, maybe she might try some other Australian animals. Take a baby crocodile from its mother and see how you go there.
Linda, why is that a fail? Obviously, I mean, clearly, but why?
Totally wrong on the specific level of taking a baby wombat, a protected animal, from its mother, and also the much broader of issue is if you are an animal lover and an influencer, why don't you actually try behaving like one?
Awful.
I love the Prime
She
Minister's
fled the
comments.
country. Up next, it's Lisa's. Let's take a look.
I think it's absolutely fantastic that Canada is united against him, and I think a load of Brits are as well. I think the English have just lost patience with him. Although I have met a Trump voter.
But there were a lot of them because obviously he won the election.
Well, I know.
David.
What's going on there, Lisa?
Baroness Jenny Jones is sort of...
Green Party.
Yeah, declaring that she has met a Trump voter and then looks around the Newsnight BBC studio for sympathy because she once met a Trump voter. You know...
70 million people vote.
That's right, that was pointed out to her immediately afterwards.
Just absurd. And lastly, this, Paul, this is your one. Let's take a look.
How are you running your other businesses?
With great difficulty. Yeah, I mean...
But there's no turning back, you're saying?
I'm just here trying to make government more efficient.
Poor Elon.
I mean, has a sigh ever spoken louder than that? No brand has trashed as fast as his since maybe Budweiser White, I think, maybe.
I think he lost, is it 18 or 80 billion on the stock market? Tesla's shares
Unbelievable.
plunging.
53% of the value of his company at one point.
But that said...
And they're cancelling the SpaceX contracts all over the world. I mean, he's just finished, isn't he? What a ridiculous thing.
But that said, the entire S&P and the FTSE was tanking this week and last because of the tariffs.
He hasn't... That's a cycle. You know, he's going to come up again. Obviously.
OK, Leo Kirst is on standby with headliners. Leo, what's in your box of tricks tonight?
We've got a cracking show coming up. We've got Nick Dixon and Lewis Schaefer on tonight, so it's definitely going to be fun. And we've got a bunch of stories, including the new head of Ofsted, who's a religious teacher who's platformed an Islamic speaker who called Jews pigs and said they should be terminated. We've also got Labour planning more cuts to the NHS. They're the Margaret Thatcher we never had. And we've also got the UK spy chief who said he told Number 10 about the COVID lab leak back in the day when it was a conspiracy theory, and he was sidelined. So that's one that proves that some conspiracy theories do come true.
Yeah, they say, what's the difference between a conspiracy theory and the truth? And I think the answer is about 6 months. Yeah, interesting. Thank you, Leo. Panel, thanks for tonight. What are you looking forward to next week? Any big stories on the horizon?
No.
The Tory party announcement on Tuesday?
Oh yeah, I
I
can't wait for that. I'm bated breath about that.
No, I'm interested. I think it'll be interesting to see what she has to say.
And Paul, we could be seeing a very weak Keir Starmer on the ropes if these stories in the Observer and the Sunday Times are true.
Well, as ever, let's wait and see for the actual announcement. I think there's a green paper on the way. Let's see what it says.
OK, interesting. Panel, thank you for tonight. Linda, Lisa, Paul, you'll be back next week.
We will.
Thank you at home for your company. Really appreciate it. I'm back tomorrow from 9 p.m. and I have a big interview with the former Polish Prime Minister. We got stuck into the rise and fall of Western civilization, immigration. When was the last Islamic terror attack in Poland? Any guesses? Never. No. Why? He had some stark warnings as with good advice for the UK. That's tomorrow night. In the meantime, here's headliners. First of all, though, your weather. Have a very good evening and a very good Sunday. Fill your boots with a nice beer, a vino or a Sunday roast, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Good night.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Looking ahead into next week, for most of us it should be fairly dry. We'll continue to see some spells of sunshine, and towards the middle of the next week, actually, it will start to turn a little bit warmer. Reason for the settled conditions is this area of high pressure. It's not really going to go far over the next few days, but we still have this weak weather front, which will be a focus of some patchy rain as it sinks its way southwards across Scotland overnight. Further south, that's where we see the clearest of the skies, and under the clear skies, a widespread frost developing. Could see temperatures in the countryside as low as -4 or -5 degrees. Also, could see a few patches of fog first thing, but they will quickly clear as we move into Sunday morning. And then a closer look across Scotland. First thing, we will see a few showers just moving in across the very far north, but for much of Scotland it should be a fairly bright start to the day. That weak front will still be around across Northern Ireland and Northern England, so a risk of a few spots of rain here, and also a fair bit of cloud for the Midlands and parts of Wales. But the further south you are, a fairly bright and sunny start today, albeit rather cold. As we move through the course of the day, quite a lot of the country seeing the cloud bubble up. We'll hang on to probably the best of the sunshine across the very far south of England and maybe also parts of western Scotland. And that cloud will be just thick enough in places to produce the odd spot of rain, but most of us remaining dry. Temperatures on Sunday similar to what we will be seeing today. Highs potentially up to 10 or 11 degrees where we see the sunniest skies. Into Monday, a fair bit of cloud around as we start the day, but that will begin to break up a little bit as we move through into the afternoon. Best of the sunshine on Monday across parts of northern Scotland, maybe later on across East Anglia. And then it's really from Tuesday into Wednesday where we see increasing amounts of sunshine, and by Wednesday some of us seeing temperatures in the mid-teens.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We're giving you the chance to splash out this season with an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash. Jet off on your dream holiday, treat yourself to something special, or just save it for a rainy day. You'll also receive 2 brand new designer watches and a Mulberry handbag, so you can really look the part this spring. For another chance to win the lot, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Hello, it's 11 o'clock, which means it's time for tomorrow's newspapers tonight. Join us over the next hour to find out why the new head of Ofsted, the government department overseeing education, is a religious teacher who told schoolgirls to wear hijab outside the school and platformed a radical cleric who referred to Jews as pigs. Speaking of which, medieval religion is getting a high-tech twist in Iran where religious leaders are using drone technology to make sure girls are wearing hijabs. And why is the government giving fat and depressed people free cars? Depressed people aren't going to make roads safer, and fat people need to walk to the kebab shop anyway. I'm Leo Kearse, and tonight I'm joined by the funny people Lewis Schaefer and Nick Dixon to take you through Sunday's top stories. Look at them go. Ready to get cracking. This is Headliners.
I hate that shot.
But before tomorrow's news, let's go to tonight's headlines with Sophia Wensler.
Good evening. Your headlines from the GB Newsroom. Sir Keir Starmer has announced military planning for a Ukrainian peace deal is now moving